This furnace here is Lennox's newest furnace. It's the SLP 99. So we're just going to do some maintenance on the furnace and then some basic troubleshooting. Anytime you have a higher efficiency furnace where you have intake and an exhaust, the exhaust has condensation on the end of it. So the exhaust is designed to be pitched back to the furnace. That way all the condensation in the piping now drains back to the furnace, comes through your drain hoses that go back to the collector box. The collector box then contains the condensation. The trap, which is right here, it gets mounted onto the furnace like so. So the condensation drains out of the collector box into the trap, and then from there it's going to go to a floor drain or a condensate pump. Condensation washes back to the furnace, and when it does that, even with a brand new installation, if you have any shavings from cutting the pipe, those shavings actually make themselves back into the collector box. So it's very important to take this all apart and clean it all up. So first thing we're going to do is just loosen up the clamp. The best way to get to that back strainer is to just completely remove the inducer motor. Now the inducer motor is basically what takes its products of combustion from the furnace and pushes it outside. On the inside here we've got two drain hoses. So here's one drain hose. That goes in from the condensation coming back here. Then on the inside here, we've got two strainers. And you can see how small the holes are. You got the holes on both sides, and then you got another hole on the end. So again, the PVC shavings will make their way back to the furnace and then back to the strainers. And then the strainers will actually plug up. And just to kind of give you an idea, there's some PVC shavings that I was talking about. So if that gets stuck into here, you can see how that would plug it up. And then the condensation wouldn't drain properly. The condensation would then back up into the collector box, choking off the airflow that's hooked up to the pressure switch. So the pressure switch then drops out the circuit and then the burner shut off. So you can take a piece of wire and then just physically just clean each individual, and then I'll even blow through it. If I'm getting any back pressure, then there's something else still in there. But that just kind of indicates that everything's good and clean. I put the strainer back into the collector box, and then I'll take the hose and I'll blow through this too. So that's good and clean. One other thing that you can do that's kind of a good idea is you can take a funnel and actually pour like warm soapy water and pour that right into the collector box, and that'll even flush out the bottom. Because depending on how well the furnace is pitched, if the furnace is not pitched totally properly, anytime you have water that sits, it becomes stagnant. Next thing you know, you've got problems with drains. At this point, we'll say that we flushed out the collector box. We've cleaned the strainers, we blew out the hoses. Now we can actually put the inducer motor back together. Let me grab a light for a second. Okay, so you just kind of wiggle it into place and it kind of falls right into place. What I always tell the guys or girls is you can start this with a drill but finish it by hand, because this screw is going into plastic, and with these drills nowadays, as strong as they are, you don't want to strip out the hole. Okay, so then finish it by hand. Now we need to take a look inside the burner compartment. I always just kind of take a look and see for PVC shavings on the inside. And that kind of tells me, You know, sometimes you're using a pipe cutter, so it's a nice clean cut, so you don't have as much PVC shavings. But this one's very, very clean. The other thing that's very important on a regular annual maintenance is to have your flame sensor pulled and cleaned, which starts a whole new debate. There are so many different ways. A lot of people use a wire brush, which basically you're just taking this and cleaning it up. Me personally, I use a 3-sided file, and I've done it for years. And I basically just take it and scrape it like this. So now we know our burners are clean, our burner area is clean, our flame sensor is cleaned. Now we've completed a lot of the, what I like to call the off-cycle tasks. And like I say, our furnaces are not powered up yet, but typically speaking, what would happen was you'd turn the power back on, the thermostat would be calling for heat. At this point, the inducer motor comes on, the pressure switch closes, the board checks the safety circuit. The safety circuit's complete, the igniter lights, or the igniter heats up, ignites the gas. We get a good signal from the clean sensor back to the board. Now the board then will time out, and then the blower starts coming on, and now we're supplying heat to the house. So at this point, we would put our thermometers, one in the supply, one in the return, and what you're doing is you're taking a temperature rise. So the manufacturer for every furnace is, it'll tell you what that should be. For example, if it says 40 to 70 degrees, when you take your temperature of your supply and your temperature of your return, you should be within that range. If you're not in that range, then you have to kind of look into what's going on as far as maybe not pushing enough air, maybe a dirty filter, maybe the CFMs are set wrong on the furnace. To get a good amp draw on the blower motor, we need to put the cover on, or at least cover up, because with the panel removed, you're drawing in a lot more air. A lot more air is more load, and you're not going to get a correct reading on the blower motor. So at this point, now that we got this blocked off, the inducer motor's running, we can take an amp draw right off the common, and then you can even go right to your neutral of coming into the furnace. So typically speaking, when say you're running the furnace, so you're running the inducer motor and you're running the blower motor, if you were to take a total amp draw and then subtract the inducer motor, that would give you the balance would be your blower motor. Today's thermostats, especially if it's communicating, the tightness of the wires are very crucial. So you just kind of reach in here, and there's 4 terminals. You just make sure everything's nice and good and tight. Yeah, the other thing that's very important, and this is something that you like the homeowner to be involved on, because if you're out there twice a year to do their maintenance, a lot of times twice a year is not enough, especially depending on the system, or if you got a 1-inch filter compared to a 4-inch filter. But filters need to be checked and replaced when necessary to maintain the longevity of the furnace and air conditioning. If your system has a condensate pump, and that's how it's using its means of getting rid of the water, when you treat your drain lines, it'll go through your trap, through the other trap, and then into the condensate pump. This holds water, and that water does need to be treated on a regular basis.